I'm Brian Derrick,
And I'm Glennis Mahar.
and this is Vibes Only, the podcast that checks the vibes of American politics every week. And the vibes this week.
This week, Donald Trump continued to announce everyone he's going to fire in 6 months.
Some nominees appear to have no compelling qualifications other than loyalty to Trump.
We'll go through some of those truly shocking nominations before playing It's Giving and pulling up our group chat. Let's get into it.
All right, Glennis, our second to last ep of Vibes Only.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. How we doing?
I feel okay. I feel ready to resist.
How do you feel today compared to November 6th?
I feel ready to work. I think I did also on November 6th. Of course, I was emotional and shocked, but I feel some of the dust has settled, although it does feel like a sandstorm post-election, a theoretical sandstorm. But I feel ready to work. How about you?
Yeah, I definitely have had time to process more. And the things that I was the most afraid of on November 4th and November 6th are still the things that I'm the most afraid of now. But I think I'm a little bit further along in mentally preparing for some of those things and just realigning my expectations of what the next couple of years look like personally, professionally,
Yeah.
and that's still gonna take some time, but I think I'm in a more prepared or guarded headspace in a way that I think I need to be.
Yeah.
We all have to adapt, like, it's a new world, and that's also why we're sad to say that it's the second to last ep of Vibes Only, but we have to adapt in this new world of media as well.
That is right.
For our fans who enjoy the pod, we would love to hear from you about what you've liked about the pod this year. If you want to see it come back in the same iteration or a new iteration in 2025, we would love to hear that. You can always send us a text at the link in the show notes or send us a voice memo. We love those at vibes@couriernewsroom.com.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from you, honestly, about what you think this pod has brought that other news podcasts might not, and how we can continue to serve y'all the best in this new Trump era 2.0.
Exactly. Please do that. We would love to hear. And if you want the pod to stick around, we want to know. We want to know why, and we want to know how we can make it better, especially in these next 4 years. As you say, like it does feel like uncharted territory, even though we did already go through 4 years of a Trump presidency. I just feel that this is just markedly different. The conservative movement is very strong. The MAGA movement is very prepared and have been preparing for this moment. It's just a different playing field.
Definitely. Yeah, it does not feel like 2016 to me.
Hmm.
And I don't think that January is going to feel like it did 2017. And it'll be interesting to see how we're able to develop a strategic and sustainable response to Trump, hopefully in a way that is deeper and longer lasting than I think the first time around might have been, right? Like, how are we building something longer term that can win and endure?
Yeah.
But for today's ep, we want to go through what we know about the Trump admin so far, which is largely nominations, as he has broken every modern record in how quickly he's making appointments. To your point around being prepared, or at least being fast acting,
Right.
like an onset disease that you didn't see coming, right? Like,
Literally. And can I just say, it will come as a shock to literally no one that my butt is more clenched than ever. But particularly between the hours of 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., because that is when Donald Trump is making these announcements. So like almost every single day between 4 to 9, we're getting another announcement of who he's nominating for, insert cabinet position or fake government position, i.e. Doge, here. So it's been like every night I'm like, okay, here it comes. I'm like, I need to schedule myself and like go for a walk for a 4 hour walk, just so I'm like physically active while this is coming through.
just to put like a finer point on the fire hose that we're drinking from on cabinet nominations, Biden and Obama took 40 days to make 12 cabinet appointments. George W. Bush took over 50 days to make his first 12 cabinet appointments. Trump did it in 8 days. So, like, we are talking a blitzkrieg of conspiracy theorists and sycophants into some of the most powerful positions in the country. There's a lot of cause for concern. But so yes, let's take them one by one.
There is a theme here before we get into it as well, a keyword, which is loyalty. Who has been the most loyal to Donald Trump and what position have they been nominated for?
Yeah. And as we talk through them, I think what we want to cover is who they are and what the impact is of them being appointed to this position if they're confirmed. But also, we have to contextualize with the likelihood of them actually being confirmed. I'm going to ask you to rate them all 1 to 10
Oh,
on
oh,
how likely you think they are.
yeah.
And number two, well, let's say who's in the position now so that people can anchor in, like, oh, I've heard of this person before. Like, that's
Mhm.
the context that I typically hear about whoever, Mayorkas or Blinken or something like that, so that we understand what we might be hearing about in this next term.
All right, buckle up, vibes only listeners. Let's go.
Let's start with the most conventional and go to the craziest.
Okay.
So, Marco Rubio, US Senator from the state of Florida, nominated for Secretary of State. First, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely it is do you think he's confirmed?
10.
10. Yeah, same. That's like definitely happening.
He's like the most, I'm using air quotes, normal
Yeah,
person.
agreed. Still someone that we obviously disagree with
Mhm.
deeply on
Mhm.
any issue, like
Almost, yeah, any issue. Yeah.
throw a dart at a dartboard, but it has, I think, a really strong chance of just sailing through because he's been vetted in these types of ways before and also knows all the people who are going to be voting to confirm.
Our current Secretary of State is, of course, Anthony Blinken. It is a little, okay, now we're going to be sending Marco Rubio abroad to be meeting with world leaders and trying to stop wars or, mitigate war or international tension. But here we go.
Again, while I disagree most likely with the decisions that he's going to make and how he's going to present the US, I feel more comfortable with him than the alternative given some of these other picks. And the main topics that we're going to be talking about when it pertains to Rubio will be the war in Ukraine,
Hmm.
the war in the Middle East and Gaza policy, with what's happening with China, Russia, Taiwan. Like, these are the things, these are the places he's going to be sent in order to be an emissary from the US and represent our interests there, which we hate. And at least he understands the stakes. Because I think a lot of people in Trump's world just are showing up with a sledgehammer, don't really care about any of the consequences of their actions. And for the Secretary of State to feel that way would be obviously terrifying. So at least, even if he makes the wrong decision, I think he understands the landscape that he's operating within. Whereas, like, some of Trump's people, I don't think could point to Taiwan,
On a map.
yeah, or Ukraine on a map.
Completely agree. Let's keep going with some like international relations. Elise Stefanik from my neck of the woods. She's currently a congresswoman from upstate New York. She has been nominated to be the ambassador to the United Nations.
I'm gonna put her at a 9.5
9.5. Yeah.
out of 10. Like, she's also going to be
Yeah.
confirmed. The current woman serving in this role is Linda Thomas Greenfield. I think the time our listeners may have heard about her the most is when the US votes at the UN on resolutions related to Israel and Gaza.
Mhm.
That's when I see her mentioned the most and clips of her go viral.
Agree.
Stefanik is not a surprising choice because of how vocally she'll support and defend anything that Trump does.
Loyalist.
Yeah, right. She's been like sucking up to him and trying to get in his good graces, even though back in the day she was a Trump critic.
Right.
She like started not in this, but just like totally sold out and was like, oh, I can actually get way more power if I just start saying these other things. So she started doing that. I think the only reason this was a little bit surprising is that there has been a lot of talk about her becoming a future Speaker of the House,
Mm.
or like she's in leadership now and got to a really senior leadership position in the Republican caucus very quickly. So there was a lot of conversation about that. But I think that there's been so much turnover and turmoil for the Republican speakers that she might not even want the job anymore.
Totally. That is a hot mess. Yeah.
Like, why would you want that when clearly they're just like throwing speakers out left and right? That's not a lot of job security. Whereas having a very visible cabinet appointment can set you up for a future statewide run. She could run for Senate or governor in New York.
Not on my watch.
Yeah, I know.
Not on my New York watch.
I don't know. She probably sees herself as like a VP or presidential material in the future.
Of course she does. Let's go to someone I thought we would never have to talk about ever again.
Unfortunately,
Trump even said that she was out of the running because she infamously kills puppies.
literally.
Christy Nome. She has been nominated for Secretary of Homeland Security.
Which is the position currently held by Mayorkas, which people have definitely heard of. If you remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene did introduce articles of impeachment against Mayorkas, and he's a favorite villain for Republicans. So that would be the context under which we hear Nome. This is a very important role as it pertains to border policy. Kristi Nome is very extreme. Before the puppy killing thing, she was on everyone's short list, but I liked her odds more than most for being a VP pick back when I thought Trump wouldn't pick another white man. Jokes. Yeah, she's a disaster. I think that this type of position is perfect for her because she is so unelectable
Yeah.
outside of somewhere like South Dakota.
She's the current governor of South Dakota. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Right.
Wait, there's a stat about her that I saw that I want to. It's not even funny, but it's funny. All of South Dakota's 9 indigenous tribes voted to ban her from coming onto their land.
Period.
She is the governor of the state.
Wait, can we all do that? Can we do that in New York?
I mean,
No Broadway for you.
what do you think what is she? 9?
9.5.
Right?
Yeah, she's also gonna sail through. And it's important for people to remember they only need a majority. Republicans have 53 seats in the Senate. So you need 4 Republicans to defect in order to block one of these from going through. Democrats do not have the power to block any of them. So it's really just up to whether Republicans will put up any kind of fight, which
We'll get to that.
well, let's get there right away because Tulsi Gabbard,
Spineless former Democrat.
she's been nominated as Director of National Intelligence. The office is currently held by Avril Haines, who I don't know well.
Which you shouldn't, really.
Right.
Like, we shouldn't deeply know our Director of National Intelligence. This person is responsible for so much. It blows my mind. Tulsi Gabbard, as far as I understand it, has never once held an intelligence position.
Right. And she would be the head of the US intelligence community. So this is the overarching role over the CIA and
NSA, CIA.
thank you. Thank you.
It's the all of the acronyms.
Exactly. So all the spy agencies fall under this role. Tulsi Gabbard has received a lot of criticism for her pro-Russia positions.
Yeah.
I mean, like the left-wing internet would have you believe she's like an actual agent of the Russian state. And so this person would have obviously access to all of the country's deepest secrets, are like methods of collecting intelligence around the world. And that's extremely concerning. So I'm actually going to drop her. What do you think?
3.
Oh, a 3.
You think 0?
Oh, no, I think higher.
Oh, but I think that's my, like, personal angst around her and my fear of, like, our national intelligence, but you think what? She's a 7?
I would have said like a 5.5 or a 6. I put it at over 50%, specifically because I think that there are so few Republicans that have a spine that they're going to sort of keep their powder dry for some of the worse ones,
Okay.
which is like hard to even say.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being a little bit cynical, but you need 4.
Then my next question, we'll keep going, but with Project 2025, which now they do claim responsibility for, after all of that, is these 20,000, they wanted to purge federal government employees. I feel less worried about Tulsi if like CIA, NSA can keep their employees who have been there for years, if not decades. But then again, if Project 2025 wants to come in and sweep the rug with all these employees, it's like, well, then what? Put in like Trump loyalists who don't know their ass from their elbow?
Thinking back to the first Trump administration, Trump regularly questioned the intelligence community's findings and recommendations in favor of those statements from our adversaries, right? There were occasions where Putin would put something out or China would say something, and Trump would trust that statement over what his own intelligence agencies were telling him. And the fear of having Tulsi Gabbard in this position is that she would probably be on the same page, right? She would be like, yeah, there's a conspiracy theory. The CIA actually hates America, and we're not going to trust that. We're going to trust the press release from Putin on, like, oh, I'm sure they're not doing that, or oh, I'm sure they'll be really nice to the Ukrainians.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Just like crazy things like that.
Well, that's what I'll lose sleep over, if anyone was curious.
Next one.
Chris Wright, Secretary of the Energy Department.
Yes, currently held by Jennifer Granholm.
I truly don't know who this person is. I know they have literally no government experience. I also know that he believes that there is no climate crisis and that we're not in the midst of an energy transition. Who is this guy?
This is actually traditional Republican approach, which is let's put the lobbyist and corporate overlords of a sector in charge of regulating that sector, because that's not a conflict of interest at all, obviously. That person's not going to completely gut all regulations in favor of the corporations and then immediately leave the administration and cash out and have those same corporations pay them millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars because of the money they saved from poisoning the earth and all of our drinking water, right? Like that would never happen.
Right.
It's satire. So yeah, it's extremely concerning. I also will remind people that their whole ethos here and what they're going to say during these confirmation hearings around like the failure of Biden's energy policy is all based on nothing. And the US has never produced more energy than we do right now. So this person, Chris Wright in particular, is inheriting a Goldilocks type of situation where like solar and wind are passing coal for the first time in American history. And we have raised the gross energy production. We're exporting more energy than we ever have before. Like all of these things are in a great spot. And he's going to come in and again, not try to like make energy cheaper for everyone, but specifically gear policy towards giving corporations more money and tax breaks for like big oil and that kind of thing.
Even ExxonMobil, they came out and they were like, this isn't good.
They were like, this dude's bad news. Yeah.
If big oil, the same big oil that Trump promised like favors to if they bundled $1 billion for his campaign, they're like, no, 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 this isn't good. Like, not that I trust big oil, but if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, I think that is probably bad fucking news.
Right.
So what do you think? So he's like an 8.59 because no one really knows who he is.
Yep. I think that's right.
Great. Well, everyone talk about Chris Wright and let people know who he is because he's not good. Okay, now let's get into the stuff that's really just like makes me want to lose consciousness when I see the news alerts. This one, I want to preface with this is fake news because I don't know how much this new organization is going to actually matter. It kind of feels like a trophy for these two men, which is Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, who are now the co-heads of government efficiency. And the joke I was seeing online when this was announced was like, yeah, to have two heads of something is really efficient, right? Especially two men with two very big egos. I wonder how much fighting is gonna happen. The acronym for this is Doge, which for those who don't know is a cryptocurrency that Elon is a huge fan of.
Dogecoin. Yeah.
Massive eye roll. This does not require any sort of confirmation because it's literally a made up department that will have technically no oversight whatsoever.
I do think that the Doge thing is worth commenting on because it reorients us to what all of this is really about, which is a grift. Naming something Doge they knew was going to result in an increase in the price of Dogecoin. It's like the GameStop memification of our entire country, basically. And so Dogecoin has increased in value by like 3x since this was announced.
I'd love to see how much Elon made off that.
It was recently trading at like 14 cents and now it's up to like 40. And so, yeah, people made a lot of money, hundreds of millions of dollars off of just the name of this alone. So not only is this sort of like a giveaway to Elon, one of Trump's biggest financial backers, but also to just the sort of crypto bro world as well, that I think a lot of them knew that this was coming and that Elon was going to do shit like this. And if you are financially invested in Elon's success, then this helped you as well, potentially.
Yeah.
The department is made up, as you mentioned, and has no actual power. I think that they're just going to sit around a table and make recommendations to Trump. And that's like the real dangers. There's also no accountability.
Yeah.
I guess they could subpoena them to try to come in for congressional hearings if Democrats win back the House, but there's going to be no actual accountability, and they're just throwing grenades. Vivek is like going on TV saying they're going to quote unquote delete entire federal agencies.
Are you expecting to close down entire agencies like President Trump has talked about the Department of Education, for example? Are you going to be closing down departments?
We expect mass reductions. We expect certain agencies to be deleted outright.
So I think a lot of it's just going to be throwing spaghetti at the wall because things like that will require congressional cooperation.
Yeah, it's a Department of Participation trophies, and let's see what they come up with in their little room.
Okay.
Here's the big one. This was the one that we all talked about that it could happen, and now it has happened.
They said this was going to happen.
Totally. So it was like it wasn't that it was a shock. It was just like a confirmation of, oh yeah, we lost the election.
And we're talking about, of course, RFK Jr. for the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Renowned health expert and leader in. I can't even make a joke about it because he's so batshit. Like, he had a little worm in his brain.
Whether it was related to that or not, he has truly gone off the rails in terms of what he thinks the role of the federal government in health and human services actually should be. And he's questioned whether vaccines should ever be required, including for things like children attending schools and that kind of thing, which we know and the data shows have decreased mortality rates for children, have like until recently basically made a lot of the most deadly diseases of the last century
Disappear. Well, not disappear, but if you have access to the vaccines, make them
exceedingly rare, at least like
Yeah.
a non-threat to public health. And we're seeing that chipped away. And he's had a big part in normalizing misinformation and distributing misinformation about vaccines and relevant claims. But it goes way deeper than that. That's sort of like the thing that everyone knows about him. But he really is latching on to this MAHA, Make America Healthy Again pipeline of people just generally distrusting the government and food and trying to, again, like use a strongman persona to proclaim that there's a solution to all of this and that he has it. He does it for personal enrichment. He's made millions and millions of dollars off of his own nonprofit organization, as well as like speaker fees and things like that. He's just found a cult that he can sort of lead and profit from. But now he's going to have a significant amount of power over organizations like the FDA and the CDC. This is the one where we could see the most drastic change that impacts us daily, I think.
Again, someone who has no public health experience, knowledge, or expertise. I don't know if you were seeing, this was like viral on the internet. He said something about people who take antidepressants, SSRIs, or any sort of ADHD medication should be put into camps.
I know he has said it causes mass shootings.
Yeah.
Which is like not unrelated to the claims by people like Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro that birth control causes depression.
Right.
And like anger in like women because women hate them because they're horrible to women.
Right.
A lot of this particular segment of the MAGA bullshit can really be chalked up to not understanding the difference between correlation and causation.
Mm-hmm.
That they see like, oh, a lot of people are taking birth control and there have been increased anxiety rates in women in the last 20 years or like whatever. I'm making this up, but like, and then they're like, that must be the cause. Whereas you're ignoring all this other evidence. Oh, it actually increased in men as well. Oh, it actually has been tested for that. Oh, there are studies that show that it's not true. Like they ignore all this other stuff and just like to draw lines between dots that aren't actually connected. It's the same as vaccines and autism. It's the same as antidepressants and school shootings. It's just making things up that like feel right. I'm using air quotes. It like, oh, this like feels right because I personally feel like people didn't used to take as much of this certain pill and we didn't have as much of this other thing. So like it makes logical sense that these things both increased at the same time. That's not how it works.
Yeah, it's not anchored in fact. Trump tweeted or Truth Socialed or whatever he did, a photo of all of them on his plane eating McDonald's. And I mean, the Maha movement, it's a podcast for another day, but just McDonald's objectively is not healthy food. Everyone agrees with that. So what? And then also there was a photo that went semi-viral of RFK zinning, the nicotine packets.
A lipper.
I know that Trump ran on the platform and perhaps it helped him with the youth vote that he would not tax Zyn. Tobacco is traditionally taxed, or nicotine products are taxed the same way, like, very, very highly because they are harmful and we want to kind of create barriers of entry for youth specifically to purchase them. But it's like, dude, that is an extremely harmful substance. Objectively, nicotine is addictive. The hypocrisy, if you really think about it for more than 5 minutes, will make you lose your mind. But it is something that I think that we will have to continue to focus on and pick apart because we can't normalize it. Like,
Yeah.
that's the really frustrating part. The normalization of how none of it makes sense or is wildly hypocritical is part of the this puzzle that is, eradicating our democracy.
Where do you put RFK Jr. on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, he's getting confirmed. So, 8?
I'm gonna go with like a 5.
Why do you say a 5?
I think it's 50-50.
You think Republicans will come out against him?
Yes.
Who?
Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, maybe Joni Ernst.
Okay.
I think them, Bill Cassidy, Tom Tillis, the senator from North Carolina, who's up in 2026. The other ones, Josh Barrow created a list of the ones he thinks will be problematic
RFK.
for all of them. For like the most controversial picks, or like the Republicans we should be watching, include the ones that I mentioned, as well as Bill Cassidy, John Curtis, Todd Young, Shelley Moore Capito, and Mitch McConnell, even depending on who we're talking about.
Honestly, Mitch, I know you're on your last leg here. Please just help us out. My one thing with RFK is, so when he got nominated, I saw a fair amount of people on my social media who are not outwardly Trump supporters be very excited about the RFK Jr. nomination. And like, they voted, it was very clear they voted for Trump because of that. And that goes back to the Maha movement.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the Maha movement will put pressure on, again, Maha, make America healthy again. I don't know. We'll see. I hope it's 5. Like, get him out of here. Get him back with his birds.
I will also point out that Mike Pence came out strongly against RFK Jr. He's been making a lot of noise saying that anyone who's pro-life should be infuriated.
Oh.
And he's trying to whip support against RFK for someone who's like more traditionally going to attack abortion access. Not that RFK wouldn't, but that RFK has like claimed to be pro-choice in the past.
Okay.
He's all over the map on it, but he wants someone else. So I think there's like some question there. I would anticipate all Democrats to uniformly vote against his confirmation, as well as almost all of these.
Yeah.
Next on our list is Pete Hegseth, which took a lot of people by surprise with his nomination for Secretary of Defense, including the Pentagon, who had never heard of him. He is a Fox News weekend host. He was in the military, but has no actual leadership role in anything defense related.
Again.
I mean, a lot of red flags here. He was opposed to women serving in combat. He said he wants service members accused of war crimes to be pardoned. A fellow service member flagged him as a potential insider threat because he had a tattoo that's associated with white supremacist groups.
So that's at least 2, just to keep track here, 2 people we've talked about. Tulsi, who like quite possibly is a useful idiot for Russia, and this guy Pete Hegseth, like, what?
Yeah.
Who's, by the way, a Fox weekend host, not even a Fox like weekday. They're only gonna put him on the weekend, who is potentially a white supremacist. So
I put his chances lower. It has also come out that he was accused of sexual assault.
well, our president also.
Well, right. Yeah. Right. And maybe that doesn't matter at all to Trump, but it might to Joni Ernst and Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski and Shelley Moore Capito, who have all, I will remind people, voted against or publicly pushed back to the point that nominees were withdrawn in Trump's first administration. Trump did not get all of his picks in his first admin. So there's precedent here to think that some of these will be denied or not even get to a vote. I'm going to put this at like a 2. Matt Gaetz has been nominated for Attorney General. Matt Gaetz, everyone knows who that is a representative from Florida who's been credibly accused of having sex with minors, paying for sex, going to parties that had illegal drugs at them right up until he was in Congress, maybe even after he was in Congress. The DOJ was investigating. We don't have to go into every single detail. I think everyone in Trump's orbit was blindsided by this appointment.
Yeah.
Basically, Matt Gaetz got on a flight with Trump, and then when they landed, Trump announced that he was nominating Matt Gaetz as AG. Like, that's basically how it happened. I think that even Susie Wiles, who's going to be his chief of staff in the White House, I'm pretty sure she didn't even know about it. My guess here is that Gaetz knew that this House investigation report was coming out and that his time in Congress was coming to an end no matter what.
'Cause he resigned.
He resigned immediately before the 2 days before the report was released, which is not normal for someone being appointed to a cabinet position. Normally, you would stay in your congressional seat until you're confirmed. And I think that it was in both of their interests for Gaetz to be nominated. For Gaetz, it undercut the investigation against him, and technically now there's a question as to whether the investigation will ever be officially released, although I guarantee it'll be leaked either way.
There's a movement too online right now to call the ethics committee to release it.
100%, as it should be. And for Trump, Matt Gaetz as attorney general has caused such uproar that it has
Mhm.
created cover for the rest of these picks. And that's why I think it's important that we're talking about him last, because you really should be focused on these other people.
Yeah.
I give him a 0 out of 10. There's no way. He's not getting confirmed. There are over 12 Republicans who won't say that they support him or have said that they do not. Even Trump has said he sees it as worse than 50% odds. Not even worth our time,
No. See ya, Matt. Hope to never see ya again.
period.
It's
It's giving. So obviously we live in different media ecosystems. So the right wing is interpreting these cabinet appointments very differently than we are. Let's take a look.
Making America great again. Every single cabinet pick that he has announced so far is incredibly accomplished and strong on their own. As a team, this really is a dream team. We have not seen this kind of talent pool since the founding fathers.
The founding fathers are shaking in their graves. They are so offended.
Yeah, it would be hard to find a clip that would better sum up what's broken about our media ecosystem, that most people are getting their news from like entities that specifically employ people to parrot talking points to make their side look as good as possible. And that woman, I have no idea who she is, has no interest in critical thinking about any of the appointments.
Not just no interest, no ability, to critically think. It's giving delusion of grandeur or whatever. It is so deeply unhinged. Again, our founding fathers are rolling in their grave. They are deeply offended. I'm deeply offended.
Imagine George Washington meeting Matt Gaetz.
No.
You'd be like, "What's wrong with your face?"
Like, what happened to your face? It's his face is giving. I was seeing this Rob Lowe in that amazing HBO miniseries, The Candelabra.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what the candelabra is.
The Liberace,
I didn't watch that.
oh man, it's so good. I'm gonna send you a photo when we wrap. And any Vibes Only listeners, just literally Google Rob Lowe in Liberace biopic, and it's Matt Gaetz. It's like
To a T.
the eyebrows are at the hairline. Group chat. What's popping off?
Group chat has been healing, touch grass, earth is healing vibes.
Yeah.
Mostly like funny TikToks and whatnot, to be honest. On the political front, I think that a couple things broke through, including the plane photo that you mentioned of like
Yes.
the four horsemen as a sign of the apocalypse kind of thing. RFK, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Vance.
No, Vance wasn't there. Wait, but can we talk about that? Where's JD? JD? Where are you, JD? I haven't seen JD at all. JD might be the new basement baby. We may never see JD.
And the day we do is a day too soon. So I'm fine with that.
Period.
Have a great life. I hope I never see you again. The next time I see him, he'll be getting passed over for the nomination in favor of Don Jr.
You said it.
What else? Morning Joe, the co-hosts rekindled relations with Donald Trump like they're talking to a North Korean dictator for the first time or something.
Yeah, to me, I'm like, this is gonna be a huge issue for the next 4 years, Vibes Only listeners, so buckle up, but is mainstream media normalization of the Donald Trump administration, the second Donald Trump administration. Donald Trump has repeatedly bullied, spoken so much shit about Mika and Joe, the co-hosts of Morning Joe. Why? So you have access to the president for the next 4 years? I'm very disturbed by it.
Yeah, I think that I'm more conflicted, to be honest, because I think that the ways that we handled Trump the first time around maybe didn't work, right? And I don't know what all the solutions are. I know that completely freezing out the whole MAGA world, I don't think is the answer, but I think that they need to come up with better ways to both win trust and deliver truth to their audience, which is actually their job.
Okay.
So I'm not saying just like platform him whenever, let him call in and just talk on air like he does on Fox News forever. But I think that like coming up with ways to engage and hold feet to the fire is more productive than ignoring and pretending he doesn't exist or isn't a reachable person.
I agree.
And I say that with a grain of salt because I do not watch television news. So I'm not coming at it with like a super deep take on all the content that they're putting out. I see what gets shared online and I occasionally see it when I'm at the gym or the airport.
Yeah, I watch Morning Joe, so it's difficult to hear them say for 6 months that a second Donald Trump presidency would ruin America, it would be the end of America, to then being sat with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. It's giving, "I'm a never Trump guy" song on TikTok.
Yeah,
I hear your point, and I agree with your point, and I also agree with, like, I don't have all the solutions, I just have an emotion of being upset.
which is fair. I think that where I'm headed in my thinking is saying that Trump will ruin America didn't work and isn't enough. So let's be more specific and let's say it to his face, right? Like if they have a really strong argument as to why he is a threat to democracy, like let's present that compelling argument to him and have him refute it or respond to it.
Or create a lie or, gaslight everyone.
It takes skill, right? It's not just anybody with a mic can man on the street interview Donald Trump and like get to the truth. Like that's not what I'm proposing, but it's like they need to step up and figure out how to use their microphone to get the truth to the American people in a way that they actually can receive it and not just preach to the choir.
To that point, and then maybe the last thing we'll talk about in group chat is that I don't know if you saw this news, but one, Donald Trump, a nomination we didn't talk about, is his 27-year-old press secretary for the campaign. So it's the first Gen Z comms secretary for the White House.
White House press secretary. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm inventing new things. But they also said that they will be inviting influencers, internet personalities, vloggers, podcast hosts into the sacred press room, which is the first time that is happening.
With the mainstream press at the same time,
Yes.
right? Like I think the Biden administration did a lot of new things with bringing those people into the fold with digital and how they like share their communications overall, but treating them as press will be new.
Yeah.
And it goes to the idea that we are not just in a messaging war or a policy war or a culture war, we're in an information war.
And the last thing, The Onion. Buying InfoWars.
Oh, right. Wow, wait, that's funny. I didn't even think of InfoWars when I just said information
I
war.
did.
I wasn't even thinking about it.
Like we are in
That
information wars, and to that end, The Onion has bought InfoWars.
right, literally. Yeah, the Trump administration has always known, and Trump has always known that the microphone is his most powerful tool, and they plan to build a much larger microphone while in office. The last thing that I would throw in, not to poop on anybody's parade.
First of all, it's rain. I don't know why you just elevated that from number 1 to number 2. That was unnecessary.
Sorry. I was mixing my metaphors.
Disgusting.
Sorry.
But what is it? What are you pooping on?
Nancy Mace,
Oh, I know her.
congresswoman from South Carolina, also a jellyfish, and just like shit talker, troublemaker in the Republican House caucus, is introducing a bill to ban trans people from using the appropriate bathroom in the Capitol, specifically to target Sarah McBride, who is the first trans woman elected to Congress, first trans person elected to Congress. She just won the at-large seat in Delaware.
Sounds like a bully bill.
is going to be really interesting to see how Sarah McBride is treated on the Hill. She is a true warrior for showing up and dealing every day with people who want to deny that she exists, deny her humanity, deny her healthcare. She's a hero of the movement for sure. And this is just the opening salvo in what's going to be like a long and drawn out battle over trans rights at the federal level. And while good vibes are few and far between at the moment, I do just want to share that I have been very closely watching a race in North Carolina for the Supreme Court. Allison Riggs, who was one of
Yes.
Oath's highest rated candidates. And just in the last 48 hours, with slow, methodical counting of provisional ballots and all these things, she just overtook her Republican opponent and is likely to win her seat on the North Carolina Supreme Court. Had she lost, it would have locked us out of a majority on the North Carolina Supreme Court for about 10 years,
Wow.
maybe 8 to 10 years. And so this is a huge win. It's not official yet. There's going to be a recount, but a healthy, a solid, but very, very, very close margin that we're hoping she can hold on to. So that's definitely my good vibe of the week.
She came to speak to our creators when we were in Raleigh, Durham. Yeah. And then we canvassed for her. So
good work to everyone who helped us win that. Every vote really counted.
yeah.
And with that, we will leave you for the week, and we'll be back next week with our last episode of Vibes Only. Don't forget to send us a note.